Love is going to expand you. And so how does this apply to dating?
This is The Deep Dive with Adam Roa.
What's up, deep divers? I got a good musing for you today. Today, I'm going to share with you the biggest lesson I have learned from being single. And for those of you who know a bit of my story, you know that I was in a 10-year relationship that ended, and very quickly I got into a 1-year relationship and that ended, and I was healing heartbreak and dealing with depression. So I wasn't really single, because I think there's a difference between being in relationship and being single. Single to me is when you start to open your heart back up and you're actually available. And so once I had moved through the depression and the breakup, then I moved into singledom, but then COVID struck. And dating during the beginning of COVID just was not a thing. And I wound up in another relationship for about 5 months, and that ended. And I went off into a cabin in the woods by myself where I didn't see another human being most days. And I began actually the process of healing from heartbreak at applying everything I'd learned. And I'm even writing a book about that, by the way, which who knows when it'll come out, but just planting the seed. I am going to be releasing content and a book around how to heal from heartbreak, everything that I've learned about how to do this. And so creating the space in that cabin, I dove deep. And so emerging from that cabin, I feel like for the first time since maybe my entire life, I'm actually single. And single in a way where I feel empowered, singled in a way where I feel financially stable. I know what I'm here to do. I feel like I have the skills to communicate, having been in a relationship for so long. I feel like I have the emotional intelligence tools to process my own experience and not project it out onto someone else. I feel like I am ready to grab the bull by the horns, so to speak, and be single. And the way that my brain works, which is probably why you're listening to this podcast, is because I go into life, I go into everything looking at it through the lens of pattern recognition and analyzing, and breaking it down so I can spot the energetics of what's actually happening so that I can be as effective, efficient as possible for my own growth, for my own expansion, for my own evolution, because that's why I believe we're here. I believe that we've come here to experience life, and through the experience and feedback of being human, we get to see ourselves reflected back to us. And through that reflection and that feedback, we grow, we evolve, we can choose to do so. We learn more of ourselves. And as we learn more of ourselves, we learn more about life, because ourselves are interfacing with life. And therefore, as we expand and become more aware of ourselves, we become more aware of how those parts of ourselves are interfacing with life. And as we become more aware of the interfacing with life, we become more aware of creation itself and all the various nuances of creation, which is infinite. But what we're here to do is explore as much of it as we possibly can, and specifically expand in the ways that we want to, because we can expand in an infinite number of ways. For me, that looks like play, fun, creativity, depth, and love, to expand in these ways. And so one of my biggest excitements about being single has been I haven't had time to do that. And therefore I'm going to learn so much so fast, because it's an entirely new world for me. I felt like 40-year-old virgin when I first started going on dates, because I just went, I don't know how to do this. The last time I was single, there wasn't even like Instagram or dating apps or any of that. And so we're going to dive into that today. We're going to dive into that. And before I do that, I just want to take one moment to give this message of appreciation to those of you who have been leaving reviews. I read the reviews, not all of them, but I read a lot of them. And it means so much to me that you're getting value from this. And it also is I'm deeply grateful because it actually helps this podcast. It helps us in the charts. It helps us get found when people are searching for podcasts. And as someone who's been pouring my heart into this for so many years now, to receive that kind of give back of energy from you, from these reviews, means a lot. So thank you for doing that. For those of you who haven't yet, please do. And also, if you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button and leave a comment. You know, right now I'm talking into a camera and a microphone, and it's so special to actually see comments from real people, because you are a real person and not just a camera and a microphone. So thank you everybody for being a part of this deep dive community. I love you so much. And let's continue down the deep dive rabbit hole of what the biggest lesson I've learned from being single actually is. And because of how I approach things, I had a feeling that it wasn't going to take me very long to start to learn things about myself and the energetics of relating. And I would say that since emerging from that cabin, I've probably been on a date with like 6 women in the last several months. So I had this idea that I was going to go out into the world finally and just kind of go crazy a little bit in a conscious, loving way, and still be able to explore so much of my own sexuality, remove the taboo for myself around sex, and go to play parties and have threesomes and fivesomes and eightsomes, and try BDSM kink stuff and get tied up and hit with shit. And it's like I've done some of these things, by the way. I have done some of these things. I'm not going to tell you what. But I also thought that I would be dating a lot, going out on a lot of dates. And the reason that I thought that was because over the last 13 years, being in a primarily monogamous relationships with only 3 women over the last 13 years, I felt like there was such a limited view of the feminine that I had. And every woman is so unique, so different, that I wanted to see all the different archetypes and the different facets of the feminine through the lens of different women. And this isn't just about sex, by the way. This is just even in, how do I relate to a woman that's way more fiery and has a temper? And like, how do I relate to a woman who is really shy? Like, how do I relate to that as someone who can be very extroverted? So yeah, I thought I would want to go on lots of dates and learn and download the codes, as they like to say in the spiritual community. However, what I realized really quickly is that my priority is expansion. And my priority in life is to grow and evolve. And what evolves us, what upgrades us, what expands us is not us, it's love. Love is actually what does the expanding. Love is the expansive force of the universe. It is why when you feel love, you feel expansive. It is the thing that is there every time that you burst into a new level of consciousness for yourself. Because what has happened is you are a part of the infinite divine source, creator, God, universe, spirit, whatever you want to say. And that is infinite. And so what allows your consciousness to even stay in place, so to speak, and not just infinitely spread out into all of the oneness that is the result of fears, doubts, limiting beliefs, these contractions and these hold us in place. And so when you have an expansive moment, when you expand, it's because you allowed love into somewhere new. You allowed love into a place that previously it hadn't been, because you were afraid to look at it, or you thought you were not worthy of that love, or you didn't feel good enough, you didn't feel ready, or you didn't even have the awareness that you'd had it blocked off. And yet, even in the sadness, even in a moment of deep, deep sadness of processing your emotional experience. What is happening when you give yourself the space to do that is you are pouring love into that space that's been holding that sadness by saying, Adam, I love you enough to give you the space to feel this. I love you enough to not judge you in this emotion and to say, feel it all. It's worthy of being felt. And so in that experience, you are pouring love into an area that had previously held such sadness, and you expand. Love is going to expand you. And so how does this apply to dating? Well, I went on a few dates, like I said, and some of those dates I went on just because. Because it was a beautiful woman and she's smart and she's up to great stuff in the world. So why not? I didn't go on the date because there was the presence of love. It was a why not? This is what I think I should do. Isn't this what you do when you're single? But here's the crazy part. I love a lot of things and a lot of people. I love playing the guitar. I love making music. I love writing poetry. I love good documentaries. I love a lot of people. I like friends, platonically. Guys and girls. There's a lot of things that I love. And doing those things will always expand me. Getting on a FaceTime call with a friend, guy or girl, that I love will lead to expansion. Sitting down and watching a documentary that I love, learning, listening to a podcast, reading a book, things that I love will expand me. And all of those things will expand me more than going on a date with someone where there's not really love present. And I'm not talking about the unconditional love. Unconditional love I have present for anyone and everyone. However, what I am talking about is that spark of love. You know what that feels like. You can fall in love with someone that you just met. And that doesn't mean that you have to date them. It doesn't mean you have to have sex with them. It doesn't even mean you have to talk to them. You can fall in love with them. You can fall in love with someone that you listen to their podcast or watch their YouTube channel. You can fall in love with someone because of their music. You can fall in love with someone. That to me is how God is letting you know that someone has something for you. Think about it. If you were God and you're like, okay, how do I make sure that Adam learns this lesson over here from this particular woman or this particular activity? Let me make sure that he loves it or loves her or loves him, because he'll follow that. That's what we do as humans. That's the magnetism of love. We'll follow it to the ends of the earth. And so if I'm God, I'm saying, oh, that's how I make sure that he goes and meets this person and actually does this thing and starts playing the guitar and making music, and how he starts dating this person who's going to break up with him and make him realize how much he had suffocated this relationship through needing to prove, and just like all of the things that I've been learning as a result of following love. Because love will expand me every time if I allow it to, if I follow it. And so what I realized is I don't have these rules. I was asked that I went on a date with someone who said she had this rule where she didn't even kiss anyone that she hadn't known for at least, I think it was 3 weeks, 6 weeks. Like she needed, I think it was 6 weeks. It was a long time. It was like, I won't even kiss anyone that I haven't known for at least 6 weeks. I was like, whoa, that's an interesting, very firm rule. What is 6 weeks? Where did that come from? And she said, well, I just feel like that's the part of the amount of time it takes for me to know I'm not coming from these old patterns of lust. And I went, oh, okay. I disagree. I disagree, because I'm someone who feels like if there's love present, I'm happy to kiss someone on when I first met them. I would sleep with someone on the first date. I don't think I've ever had a one-night stand. I don't believe that I've ever actually like just met someone, slept with that person, and then never speak to them again. I don't know. And my 10-year relationship, our first actual time hanging out, we met in an acting class, but our first actual time hanging out, just the two of us, we slept together, and then we were together for 10 years. There's a lot of stories around this stuff, and I don't have firm rules or boundaries around it, except for this one that I've developed. It's the biggest lesson I've learned from being single, which is there must be love present. Guys, I'm recording a podcast right now. There must be love present. That is my new rule. That's really my only rule, so to speak. Because if I choose to go on a date with someone and not have that spark of love, then I am choosing the less expansive path. And I refuse to do that. Because I could be home writing poetry or reading a book or FaceTiming with a buddy of mine and know that I'm receiving more expansion than going on a date with someone that I don't actually have love for. This is the biggest lesson that I have learned from being single. Follow the love. Follow the love. This is the biggest lesson I've learned. And clearly the dogs are in support of that. Because if you follow the love, you'll find the expansion. And if you find the expansion, you will find more of yourself. You will find more of God. You will find more of creation. You will find more opportunities to even let more love in. So I follow the love. This is the biggest lesson I've learned from being single, and I hope that it's helpful for those of you who might be single, for those of you who, even if you're not single, if you're in relationship, how you can apply it to the rest of your life. Thank you for following the love. Thank you for being a part of this deep dive tribe and for taking the time to listen to this. I want to remind you that always, in all ways, you are seen, you are heard, and you are loved.